Yeah, so hold the phone. Hey, it's Megan
and Sue,
the Spine Breakers,
and today we're doing a sci-fi book haul.
Yes, because we done bought some sci-fi books.
I have a lot more this time than Megan because I controlled myself in our last haul, but I did not in this haul.
And I was the opposite.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think I might have like a horror or two, but you know.
I think I might too in here.
It's all close to sci-fi.
Yeah.
And we're gonna drink this passion fruit Kolsch from New Belgium.
Here's what it looks like. Yes.
It smells good.
Oh, it does smell really good.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I think that's pretty tasty.
Yeah. It was a little, it hit me with like tartness at first, and I was like, that was a nice aftertaste.
Yeah, that's pretty tasty.
So I guess I'll go first, and maybe I'll do two.
You do two, then I'll do one. Yeah.
All right. First is what I feel like is probably the most interesting one that I got, but it's called Star, and then in parentheses it says Cassiopeia by C.I. de Fontenay. And this is translated from French by P.J. Sokolowski. But this was first published in 1854. This is what it says. It has some lofty claims. Over a century before Tolkien wrote the imaginary history of an entire world, before SF writers spoke of interstellar warfare, before astronauts talked of colonizing other worlds, before engineers planned space vehicles to carry the story of Earth through the universe, a remarkable novel had already pioneered these premises. This was the almost forgotten classic Star by C.I. de Fontenay, a truly epic work which, preceding Jules Verne's Moon Voyages, can be called the first modern space opera. And I kind of looked it up because I was like, is this for reals? And like, I don't know if it really is the first space opera, or I don't know. It might be, but it also, from like the reviews and stuff that I'd seen people talk about it, it seems like it's mostly like the history of this other world or something.
Okay.
And it also almost looks like it's written like a play or something.
Yeah, it's broken up.
So
weird.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I mean, after reading that description on the back, though, I was like, well, I have to get this.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and the cover is pretty fantastic, too, with this, like, scantily clad lady and then this alien servant, I guess, in the background. I don't know. And then next I have this one, actually Sam gave to me while she was down here, and it is Pegasus in Flight by Anne McCaffrey. And I've been wanting to read some Anne McCaffrey, but I just wasn't sure where to start for one because she's so prolific. But this is, I think, the first book in this series, although Sam said that you could start with this or the second one. So this is set in like a dystopian Earth. Their only hope, it says, is a platform under construction in space from which starships will be launched to colonize distant planets. But the project is critically behind schedule. So this is about this group called the Talents, I guess, who have special powers. They're like telepaths, kinetics, precogs, stuff like that, who have the potential to avert the looming catastrophe. So they're like a group of superheroes, kind of sounds like.
So my disclaimer for this is that I may have talked about a couple of these books in the haul that we did with Amber. From Amber Unabridged, because all my books kind of got muddled together and I couldn't figure out which ones I bought when. I'm like cleaning and purging my shit right now, so everything is like in disarray.
Yeah.
Any hoozle. So I did get a kind of neat copy of The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, which I have not read since high school. I think I read it in 10th grade.
Actually, I've never read it. I tried to a couple times and I read like 10 pages and just stopped both times. It wasn't that it was bad, I just like wasn't in the mood for it, I guess, but
I dug it, at least as far as I remember. I'm trying to figure out when this edition was published, but I don't see a date. But it smells old and I love that. So
smells old.
Yeah.
Alright, so next I have To Ride Pegasus by Anne McCaffrey, which is the next book in that series. But I think this is like, it if I understand correctly, I think this is like a prequel, which is why you can kind of read them either way. I could be wrong about that, but there's that.
There's that.
Next, I have Sunburst by Phyllis Gottlieb. Gottlieb? I don't know. I'm always on the lookout for like old sci-fi written by women, but it sounds a little bit like sci-fi mixed with horror and also creepy children, which I enjoy.
That sounds like a good time.
So there's an accident at a nuclear plant, and then generations later you have these like mutant children basically that are the result of that.
Huh.
And they keep them under wraps for a while, but then one day they get out. So it sounds cool.
Next, this is a horror novel. It's called Body Mortgage by Richard Engling. And it just looked campy as shit. And like, I love a good campy horror novel or a good campy sci-fi novel. So I'm just gonna read to you the back of this because I like the way it's worded. Slaughter City, Chicago, 1999. The big market used to be in livestock, but now it's human body parts. People can mortgage their own bodies to organ transplant companies, but they have to pay off the moment they can't pay up.
It sounds like Repo, the genetic
I
opera.
thought that when I was reading this summary, I was like, that sounds like a Repo, which I've never seen, but I've heard you talk about, and I was like...
I love Repo, and it's kind of campy too.
It looks like this was published in 1989. I'm fully hoping for like, just camp out the wazoo.
Camptown races.
Camptown races. Oh, hell yeah.
Next, I have Future Power. And
Power.
This is a collection of short stories by different sci-fi authors, edited by Jack Dan and Gardner R. Dozois.
Oh. Okay.
But it had some names I recognize, like Ursula K. Le Guin and James Tiptree Jr., so I snagged it, and it says they're all about the applications and repercussions of power in the near and far future. I have another Anne McCaffrey called The Rowan, and this is the first book in a different series by her. Okay, so this is about a woman who was like the lone survivor of this horrible disaster, and they call her the Rowan. She's also a talent, so maybe these are like connected.
Huh.
So she has, special powers.
Abilities.
So, yeah. Now I'm confused. I'm like, was I wrong about which series? I think this is a different series. Oh no, I'm confused now. I'll have to look it up. We'll see what happens.
I also have Zeus and Company by David Lee Jones, who is the author of Unicorn Highway, if that means anything to anyone. So the trouble all started when California surfer and computer programmer Cyrus Major came across a mysterious file called Euterpe, only to discover it contained the honest to Greek god muse of lyric poetry imprisoned on a hard drive.
Oh.
So this just looked like, again, camp.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this cover.
Cheese City.
Cheese City. It's like 90s Cheeseville. And maybe 80s. Whatever. I'm super stoked about it. Like, I don't know. 80s or 90s. 93.
Okay, this one was a little bit of a cover buy because it's just like fantastic, classic sci-fi cover. But it's called Time Tunnel, or on the back it says The Time Tunnel, but on the front it just says Time Tunnel. Which is it?
What a quandary.
On the spine it just says Time
Tunnel.
Like, what?
I love that font.
I know, the font is what really drew me in. And the color is purple and orange.
Yeah.
But this is about time travel. Oh, and it's by Murray Leinster. But it's about time travel, and it's connecting what was probably present time when this was published, which is 1964. And there's like a tunnel that will take you to 1804.
Oh.
And then that becomes a problem whenever people are bringing back like antique relics from 1804, and it says, but you have to be careful because what would happen to now if you did something in 1804 that would change history? It was unthinkable. Unfortunately, it happened. So it's kind of the classic premise of like,
right, you alter history by fucking with time travel.
And this was another cover buy because I love this cover. Also, the author's name is Susan, so
had to
that
get
really
it.
sold it for me. But it's called Long Dark Night of the Soul by Susan Marvin. Just look at that cover.
It's pretty
so
boss.
cool.
And I love the
really
purple and
like
the green
it.
together.
Yeah. And this one's a horror novel, I do believe. And also involves a creepy child, I think, which I enjoy.
The eyeball on the back of that.
Eyeball.
It's a creepy eyeball.
It says where horror lurks.
Ooh.
So this is about this woman who goes, or maybe young, maybe she's a teenager or something, not sure. But she's tutoring a orphaned 10-year-old boy. Liz's dream summer turns into a horrifying nightmare of possession, violence, and evil.
Evil.
So,
it's fucked up. This honestly was kind of a cover buy for me just because I thought it looked cool. It's called Green Fire by Louise Tishner. I think this is more of a fantasy novel. So this woman learns that she has to steal back the green stone that confirms her mystical power. Yeah, it's a fantasy romance filled with action, intrigue, and a mesmerizing battle of wits between a young woman who isn't quite human and a king who must rise above his humanity to save his kingdom from her magic. Seemed like a good time to me.
This one was a title buy, honestly. It's called
That cover's cool though.
Touch Not the Cat by Mary Stewart. And this is another one with like a person with people with special powers. This woman has been getting messages like in this man's voice, hearing this man's voice, and she begins to think of him as her mysterious lover. But then he's telling her that something terrible has happened to her father. Turns out her father's dead and that she's also in danger. So, shit.
I do like that cover illustration.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You have to really look at it and study it to see all the nuances.
So I bought this book called Greenhouse Summer by Norman Spinrad, which is kind of a fun name. And this is a post-apocalyptic novel. It says about 100 years from now, pollution, overpopulation, and ecological disasters have left the rich nations still rich and the poor nations, the lands of lost, slowly strangling in drought and pollution. New York City is below sea level, surrounded by a seawall. The climate in Paris is much like the 20th century climate of long-drowned New Orleans. But the planet may end because a scientist has predicted condition Venus, which is when there's a sudden greenhouse effect and it kills the planet. I mean, it sounds like at that point the world was kind of a shithole, so maybe it earned it, but
good riddance.
But it sounded pretty nifty.
All right, next one I have is called 7 Worlds by Mary Carricker. I'm not sure. But this is about Morgan Faraday, who's pictured on the cover, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Who is a Space Corps agent. So it sounds like kind of a thriller, like action thriller sort of thing, but set in space. Basically, she has to survive a lot of challenges and perils on these 7 planets for some reason. I think it's an interstellar war. Yup.
Yup.
So
there you go.
She's like the Jack Reacher of space, I guess.
Up next, I have Married with Zombies by Jesse Peterson. This just seemed like a fun zombie romp. Y'all know how I feel about zombie novels. But this is about a couple who is in couples counseling when the zombie apocalypse happens. And so they're like obviously trying to save their marriage. And now they're also trying to survive the zombie apocalypse.
That sounds pretty great.
Yeah. Seemed like a good time.
I think this was another cover by, honestly. Oh no, it says the Harlan Ellison Discovery Series number 2.
Oh, fuck.
Oh no. Maybe they still read as standalones. But this is Autumn Angels by Arthur Byron Cover. And just look at that. You can't go wrong.
How could you turn that down?
And it's got the green, blue-green turquoise edges. It has to do with a crawling bird, which you see pictured on the back. That can't fly, so it drags itself around. And it just says, and that's many of the first encounters waiting for you inside. Was there a plot? It says you'll also meet the demon, the lawyer, the fat man, the other fat man, the ebony kings, the gunso, the golden singing snakes, the big red cheese, the queen of England who calls herself a virgin, the middleman and his secretary Zelda, a pig in a red trench coat, the lonely hawkman, the godlike man with no name, the insidious oriental doctor, the talking, blood-sucking gray flowers, the Bens, Dwit and Zit, The Cigar Smoking Frogs, Tap Dancing Locust, and, well, you'll have to read it to even disbelieve it, or you can simply read it and freak. It really says that.
I love that.
Sounds like it's gonna be terrible, and I'm ready for it.
Oh God. Speaking of terrible, so lastly, I purchased a horror novel called The Jade Unicorn by J. Halpern. It says, until you know the shape of evil, you cannot hunt it down. And what I would really like for you to appreciate about this cover is the bloody unicorn horn in the corner. Because, yes. The New York cops thought it was a psycho, a madman, a nut. They were wrong, it was much worse. The Jade Unicorn. Only in New York.
That's the only description.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
But they had me at unicorn and like bloody unicorn horn, so.
Yeah. My last one is this cool copy of We by Yevgeny Zamyatin and translated by Mira Ginsburg. And yeah, this was like the granddaddy of
dystopian novels.
Dystopian novels. What was I trying to say? Yeah, so, and I've been meaning to read it for forever, but I liked this copy. I thought it was cool.
Very cool, very cool.
So that's it. And I really like this beer. Kind of wish I had more.
I know, it's
this
good.
This was our only can.
We'll have to get some more of it because it's pretty tasty.
So that was our sci-fi book haul.
Yeah, those are the books we got. We done got.
Let us know if you've read any of these and what you thought of them.
Yeah, and
have you read Married with Zombies?
Have you read any Touch Not the Cat?
Have you read Touch Not the Cat?
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.